Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot Nibelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy, and contributor to Yahoo Fantasy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have nots of the early season. Let's get it. Now, of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Buddy, happy to be here with you. Sundays are sometimes bittersweet for me. It's obviously the end of all our head-to-head matchups. And, maybe you can tell if I'm a little bit down on a Sunday, it's probably because I'm not winning all my matchups. And yeah, this week's been a little bit rough, probably my worst week so far. And I've got a couple matchups that are pending this Heritage Classic game. So, yeah, I don't know, but it's all right. Hey, what'd you think about the fits there? Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers fits going into the game there. You like that the Calgary Flames action there, the overalls?
I don't mind it, to be honest. It's different. It's a one-off, right? Like, they're trying to do something. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my favorite jersey by any stretch of the imagination, but, for a one-off, I'm not gonna ruffle any feathers with my
No,
take on that.
I'm legit talking about they showed up to the game in like overalls, like denim overalls, and like no
Oh,
shirt underneath. You know what I'm talking about? And I think that maybe could bring, because we are on YouTube now. So I don't know. I'll put a challenge up to you, Nate. If you're interested, if we get enough people maybe commenting in the comment section here, Nate and I will wear overalls with no shirts for the next episode. All right, book it. That's how we're
I
doing it.
guarantee you there is not a soul out there who wants to see
Come on,
that.
yeah,
But
put your comments in there, everybody. Let's go. All right, come on.
all right, well, on that note, we should get into some news and notes. And we got a few to get through here. We got Matt Boldy. We thought he might come in today, but didn't happen, unfortunately, for a bunch of my teams. Apparently, he's going to practice. Apparently, the Wild don't practice until Wednesday now. Like, they're just taking Monday and Tuesday off, which is kind of wild, pun intended.
Nice.
But apparently, they'll practice Wednesday, and then hopefully Boldy gets in for the games that the Wild do have this upcoming week. They do have a bad schedule, just Thursday and Saturday, so you're not expecting much from Boldy till then. I guess in retrospect, it probably makes a bit of sense to hold them out. They got this stretch of games, or stretch of days rather, that they're off, so they don't need to rush him back for this Sunday game here. So Boldy will be back hopefully on Thursday. That will be the new target that we'll be looking for. Devin Levi over in Buffalo hopes to join team practice on Tuesday, but I don't know if we would expect him to play Tuesday. What do you think, Blake? Like, we got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen tossing a shutout against the Colorado Avalanche here on Sunday, so I don't know. I'm not thinking that Levi's going to draw in right away on Tuesday.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, it's a nice timely game for UPL here to pitch a shutout. I'm still not sold on Levi as the confirmed starter there in Buffalo. Like, he hasn't had a great start. Obviously, he's got amazing talent, and he's going to definitely be a good goalie in this league, potentially this season. But yeah, I like UPL too. I drafted him in a 16-teamer. I'm holding on for dear life. There's no other goalies available. So yeah, I took a little shutout there from UPL, but yeah, I don't know. They're not going to rush him in, especially if UPL's cooking right now.
For sure. We got some great news on Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad. They're back in practice. The most that I could find is that they're now ahead of schedule. Maybe the back end of November is when we might expect to see them actually skating in real games, but great to see them back on the ice. They're ahead of schedule, which is good news for all the managers who took that later round shot on adding them to their IR. I have Montour in a league and Ekblad in another. I'm excited about both those guys getting back. Also with Florida, we have Sam Bennett. He was allegedly a game time decision Saturday, but then he didn't practice today, apparently. He wasn't there for practice, even though Montour and Ekblad were. Apparently, though, he is going on the road trip with the team, still considered day-to-day. So they play again on Monday, tomorrow, probably day of. Most people are listening to this podcast, so we'll see whether he's going to play for them on that game.
Actually, Nate, one thing on Bennett, I had read that this was a scheduled day off for him because he worked really hard in the last practice. So this was sort of a scheduled maintenance day for him. So I think there's a good chance he plays the next game.
Fair enough.
There you go.
That will also be good for a few of my teams where I have Bennett stash. So good to hear that. Hopefully, he is back in on the Monday game against Boston. Mike Matheson had a little bit of a scare, it sounded like, in the game on Saturday, but the latest is that he is it's basically not expected to be a serious thing. It's not going to keep him out long term. He's traveling with the Habs, considered day to day. It's nothing serious, is the direct quote that we have. So hopefully he doesn't miss a step and he's right back in it on Monday against the Vegas Golden Knights. Nico Hischier didn't play on this game on Sunday today. Considered day to day still. You know, well, you don't really have any more information than that. Hopefully, again, we get some more concrete news. The Devils don't play again until Thursday, so he's definitely got some time here for us to get an idea of where he's at, and hopefully he is back for the late week. Cale Makar got pushed awkwardly into the boards in the game today, came back, but wouldn't be the most shocking thing, I think, if the Colorado Avalanche did decide to give him a little bit of time off. They play on Wednesday and then don't play again until Saturday. So, if they decided to sit him for Wednesday and have him take this week and feel better, obviously there was something bothering him even when he did come back into the game. So we'll see about that one. And then and some good news, we got Connor McDavid back. He's playing in this game that's ongoing as we are currently recording. And he has an assist. He's doing the thing again. It seems like he's getting plenty of minutes, maybe not dominating the minute share the way that he normally does, but getting plenty of minutes. So it doesn't seem like he's under any real constraints there. They're not managing him in any sort of way. All right. I think that is going to be it for the news and notes. So we can get into the hot shots. And I think you're going to like who I've got here at number one, Blake. It's your boy, JT Miller. Let's talk about JT Miller. Talk to me about why everybody should have been drafting this guy and why he never had any attitude problems or any alleged things. And he's just the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Buddy, Ed, it's so nice to hear you say that. All right. I'm a big JT Miller fan. I've had lots of conversations about this guy in the past, especially when it was last season and it was kind of like, who are we taking? Are we taking JT Miller or are we taking Bo Horvat? Right. And they obviously went with JT Miller and Bo Horvat was shipped out. See you later. Thank you for your service. But yeah, this guy is flying to start the season. And Rick Tocchet has been a boon for this guy. I really think that obviously he's a surly, grumpy guy. We're talking about JT Miller here, but Tocchet is motivating him and he looks good out there. One thing I noticed, I watched the whole game yesterday that they played. This guy is skating. He's skating really well. He's winning battles. Like one thing that was like a hallmark of the Canucks last season is just lack of effort, like chasing down a puck. They sort of give up, or like Miller's body language in particular is terrible. We've all kind of seen it. You know what I mean? This guy's a bit of a ding dong, but yeah, none of that yesterday. Like he looked amazing. And plus his line is really going. I like what they got going on there. He's playing with Brock Besser, who's rejuvenated himself, and Phil Giuseppe. Di Giuseppe, go for the face. Yeah, I love Di Giuseppe. He's awesome. He's an even strength warrior, but he's a nice compliment to Miller. Like he's a puck retrieval guy, and Miller and Besser just going to work. So it's a really nice line. But yeah, the main thing I've noticed is his skating. His skating is so much better. He looks faster. He's stronger. So I would like to see a little more shots out of JT Miller, but honestly, like Besser's kind of taking care of that on their line. And, Miller's just crushing on the power play already. 4 power play points. He had a beautiful shorty the other night. So yeah, this guy's cooking. I love JT Miller. Did you get him in any spots besides the podcast league there, Nate?
I do have JT Miller in the league with the Fantasy Puck guys, the one that they put together. So
Nice.
I'm enjoying his services over there.
Hell
But yeah, it's been a solid start, obviously, for JT Miller. 12 points in 8 games so far. Overall, like, I don't think that this is the absolute best he's ever looked under the hood. But a little bit of that is when you are this efficient, especially in small sample sizes like we're dealing with here early in the season, when you are this efficient and everything's just seems to be going in, sometimes like you don't take that second shot, you don't get that second whack at the rebound, you don't get that extended ozone time and get another shot attempt or whatever. There's a little bit of that. I wouldn't say that that's a huge factor, but basically saying in the early going here with a small sample size, I'm willing to forgive the fact that he's not quite at his normal shot rates or individual scoring chance rates. Really, the on ice stuff looks to be pretty in line with what he's done the last couple years. So it seems like all that is fine and squared away in the early going here. And plus, he's playing the most minutes he's ever played so far. Most average time on ice versus any game, any team that he's played for any single season. So that's all looking good. They're going to lean on the guy, and the early returns are good. He's clearly feeling it. This is the way you want your players to start for fantasy, and I'm pretty happy to have him where I've got him. All right, let's talk about Cam Atkinson for a minute. Cam Atkinson, 7 points in his last 5 games, including 4 goals, averaging about 17-20 time on ice during that stretch. 71st in shots per 60, 23rd in individual scoring chances 4 per 60 during that stretch. So that looks pretty good. 70th in Corsi 4 per 60 and 96th in scoring chances 4 per 60. Things are going pretty well for Cam Atkinson at the moment, getting solid top line, top power play deployment in Philadelphia. We've talked a few different times about how Philadelphia is surprising pretty much everybody. They're 13th in the league in even strength Corsi for percentage. That looks pretty good. They're 15th in scoring chance for percentage. So they're hovering around the middle of the league in both of those. And that's a lot better than I think anybody thought they'd be at this point in the season. So I like the Cam Atkinson pickup. The Rolling Lines guys were on this earlier last week. Hope you're listening to them. We talked about it again with the great Philadelphia schedule for this week. What do you think about long term here, Blake? Are you ready to buy in on Cam Atkinson for the season? Obviously, he's kind of redlining a little bit right now, but full season, are you willing to buy in that this could be a guy who actually kind of returns to and captures some of his former glory, or do you think that this is just a house of cards bound to come tumbling down?
It's probably somewhere in between. I think that this week is going to be a real test for Atkinson and to see whether it's someone you might roster for the rest of the season, right? To me, he's still kind of streamer level. Philly has this great schedule this week with 2 off nights, potentially 3, right? They're playing the Monday as well. So you should be able to get this guy in and let's see what he does, right? I like the deployment. And like you said, Philly is a much improved team. They're not a basement dweller anymore. They're kind of middle of the road, which is kind of a good place to be at this point, right? No one expected them to be here. And Atkinson does have some acumen, but I do think his best days are behind him. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to come out. Right now he's on an 82-point pace, right? That's not going to happen. That's definitely going to go down. He's shooting 23.8% on the season. That's going to go down. Like his career average is 11.4, right? So he's redlining there and his IPP is insane as well, which that's fine. He's on a hot streak right now, right? But yeah, I think this week is going to be really key. I'm not really buying it, but I do like the, under the hood there, like those numbers are great. Like those scoring chances, that's a bit of a surprise, right? So, I mean, maybe this is a player that's found some chemistry on his line, and this is something we can expect, but we definitely need to see more than 5 games there. And again, this week's going to be a real telltale sign, but it's a great ad for this week. And, it could be a streamer with benefits.
Love a good streamer with benefits. All
That's
right,
right.
let's head over to Anaheim. Also, a good streaming team for this week. They've got a couple of interesting players who've been doing very well for themselves lately. Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano. Strome's got 2 goals, 7 points in his last 5 games, averaging about 17 and a half minutes per game. And Frank Vetrano, he of the 2 hat tricks to start the season, has 5 goals and 6 points in his last 5 games, averaging 18 minutes per game. Vetrano's got the individual stats, 30th in shots per 60, 58th in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, while Strome's got the on-ice stats, 51st in Corsi 4 per 60 and 61st in scoring chances 4 per 60. Strome's the guy who's been drawing in on the top power play, so that's definitely helping him out with some of the on ice numbers there. Vetrano has always been a guy who generates a lot of shots, never been a super efficient player, so he's probably just running a little bit hot on the conversion there in terms of the shooting. But again, like it's a player that a lot of people have said over the years, if this guy ever got 18 plus minutes a game, then we might actually see something like this from Frank Vetrano. We might get these outbursts and he might actually turn into somebody that you want to hold just beyond the obvious streaming weeks for him. Either of these guys have interest to you? Is Strome just a total streamer? Is Vetrano a guy that you're going to drop again after this week? Or is he more in that Cam Atkinson conversation now where he's a streamer with benefits?
Yeah, this is a weird one for sure. Like, at the start of the season, if you're talking about, Frank Vetrano and Ryan Strome, you're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that, right? But I mean, these players, first off, both need to be rostered for the beginning of this week. There's no question about that, right? They have a Monday, Wednesday start. That's excellent. And then to me, Vetrano is the one that I'm actually interested in, maybe moving forward, right? Like this is the most deployment he's ever got. And there's something to be said about a new coach coming in and then all of a sudden a new player kind of coming out of the woodwork, like Frank Vetrano, right? He's being prioritized by the coach. He's getting really good minutes, just under 19 minutes per game, right? Obviously, his shooting percentage is ridiculous. That's not going to happen. 2 hat tricks in 7 games. What the hell? Thank you, Frank. Did not expect that one, but I think this is a player because of those underlying metrics and now the increased ice time. I think like he's still on power play 2. I don't see if he keeps doing this, how they're going to keep him off power play 1 much longer. Right. This guy's getting to business on the regular. So I'm definitely interested in Frank Vetrano. He's to me that Cam Atkinson, whereas Ryan Strome, I need to see more, right? 10 points in 8 games. That's amazing, right? This guy needs to be on a roster for the beginning of the week. There's no question there. And he's getting that power play 1 time. But I mean, I trust the numbers, right? I trust those metrics that you mentioned, and I'd rather go with Frank Vetrano here. But yeah, I mean, what is up with the Strome brothers to start the season? I mean, did they have what's going on? Did they start like a new performance enhancing drug cycle? Like what's going on? Is it a Pixie Sticks thing again? Maybe they're on Pixie Sticks, Nate. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you can classify Pixie Sticks as performance-enhancing drugs, and definitely don't want to start any rumors here. But definitely, whatever off-season training regimen those guys went through, it seems to be working out for both of them. His brother Dylan Strome.
Enhancing drugs, right, Nate? Podcast.
I see what you did there. Very nice, very nice. All right. Definitely Dylan Strome. Yeah, another guy who could have made this list. He's had a really solid week, scoring a bunch of goals for the otherwise hapless Washington Capitals. But another guy who's scored a ton of goals this week is Ryan Hartman. Had another goal today in the game today. Over his last 8 points, 5 goals in that group, 18 minutes, just over 18 minutes average time on ice. As of today, now on the top power play unit as well, supplanting Marcus Johansson. Don't know how long that's going to last with Boldy in the wings, as we talked about earlier in the news and notes section. But I mean, Hartman is feeling it right now. 44th in shots per 60 over the last 5 and 15th in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 48th in Corsi 4 per 60, and 53rd in scoring chance 4 per 60. That's without the top power play time. So imagine what he could get with that top power play time. Clearly just a player who's really feeling it right now. And we talked about it on the Friday stream or podcast that we recorded, that we would be thinking about dropping Hartman because Minnesota's schedule is so bad. They're playing just the Thursday and Saturday this week, both heavy nights, and going to be tough to squeeze somebody into your lineup. But given what we've seen from Hartman, it's going to be pretty hard to drop him here. So do you have Hartman anywhere, Blake? Have you thought through what you're going to be doing with him for this week?
I did get him in one spot and I was happy about that. I mean, you've been all over this guy, so kudos to you. This guy's popping big time, but yeah, I don't know. Like with Boldy coming back, that's kind of throws a wrench in Hartman's plans as well. Cause he absolutely deserves to be on power play 1 the way he's playing right now. But when Boldy comes back, Boldy's going to power play 1 and Hartman will go back to power play 2, right? So, I mean, that all said, I do think that Hartman, he looks good and the metrics look good. Obviously, his shooting percentage is redlining right now. I mean, I would imagine his IPP is redlining. Yeah, 89% IPP in the last 5 games. Okay, that's not normal. So that's going to go down. But the way he's playing, I could see like another 65-point season, what he had a couple seasons ago. Like that's right in the wheelhouse if he keeps this up, even if he's on power play too, right? So I don't know. I'm probably going to drop him, to be honest. Like with Boldy coming back, I think I got to get rid of Hartman, but that's going to hurt, right? Because I think this is a valuable player and he's playing so well. How does he play when Boldy comes back? Like that's kind of something we want to watch. We want to check the minutes. We want to see, the scoring chances, the Corsi for, the scoring chances for, all that. Like, can he continue this while Boldy's in the lineup? Because if so, must roster player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. I wonder if, depending on how they feel about Boldy, if they don't let Boldy ease back in on power play 2, like that's definitely within the realm of possibility as well. After this week, Minnesota's next week, they play 4 games again with 2 off nights, so they have a good schedule the following week. If you can hold Hartman through this week, it might not be the worst idea if you have other players to kind of cycle through. So that's a decision I'm going to be making probably later tonight, to be honest, in a couple spots. So I'm right there with you on that. Tyler Toffoli is a guy that we absolutely have to talk about. He potted another one today. The guy's been absolutely going off. Definitely benefiting from Jack Hughes' absolute domination to start the season here. But Toffoli has 8 points in his last 5, including 7 goals, averaging just under 17 minutes. But the shots per 69th, the individual scoring chances 4 per 62nd, the on ice numbers just as good, 12th in the Corsi 4 per 61st, in scoring chances 4 per 60. Obviously, Toffoli red hot right now, absolutely feeling it. Do we have to adjust expectations for Toffoli? This is a player that I didn't think was going to crack the top power play unit in New Jersey, and obviously they've thrown all of that for a loop because now Luke Hughes is on the top
Yeah.
power play unit, and yeah, they're doing everything contrary to what I thought would be the case, and it's working. So, what do I know? But definitely Toffoli, a beneficiary of everything that's been going on in New Jersey so far. Do you expect this to continue? Right now, he's on a 103-point pace. I don't expect exactly that to continue, but like, can we talk about Toffoli as a point per game player? Is that crazy to talk about at this point?
No, I don't think so. And that's so weird to say. Like I've always been a fan of Toffoli just because of what he brings to the table, right? The crazy shots on goal, right? He had a great power play performance last season with Calgary. But this is, boy, did he land a plum spot? I mean, damn. Like first off, Hughes is just incendiary. He's going nuts. Probably the best, most dominant player in the league currently, right? Well, McDavid gets his legs back, but this guy's right alongside him, and that's not going to change, right? And the power plays are all crazy, just like you mentioned. So Toffoli is getting all the run there. He's getting the Binksy burn. I'm gonna keep saying that. But yeah, I think we do have to adjust here a little bit, right? Like it was a new player in a new place. So I'm always a little bit out on that, right? I didn't get to fully anywhere. I didn't not choose him, but I'm always a little bit wary of that, right? It's like I want to go with what I think is closer to a sure thing. And this was an unknown situation. But now that we know the situation, I think, we definitely have to adjust expectations. And I could absolutely see this guy getting 80 points if he stays healthy all season and just a boatload of power play points. And he looks good out there too. Oh man. So great job for Tyler Toffoli. Great pickup for the Devils, right? And he's flying right now. I'm into it. I wish I had him on my team.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I would say is like, I would be curious to see what you could get for him at this point. Like there might be some players out there. Can you package up and go up to Kaprizov, who just has the 3 assists and no goals in his last 5 games? Can you do something like that? Like these are the kinds of things that I always start to wonder about because, like Toffoli's hot right now. Come another month, they go through a tough road trip or something, and Toffoli has 0 goals in 5 games, and his value's right back down because people are like, the early part was the just the mirage, and this is who he really is. This is who he's been before, and the truth is probably in the middle. And we do think that there's a higher ceiling than we previously anticipated for him. But can you use this moment in time right here, where everybody's just saying, "Oh my goodness, Jack Hughes looks incredible. Tyler Toffoli going to be there all season long." I don't think it's that set in stone that he is there all season long on top power play on the Jack Hughes line. Like the Devils have definitely changed up lines and power play so far are in the early season. So I would definitely be exploring any kind of sell high that I can get for Tyler Toffoli. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth and try to just give him away. But I would definitely be seeing if I could use this to really tear up to a guy that I really feel is elite, like somebody like a Kaprizov, somebody that maybe isn't having an absolutely terrific start to the season. Just a little food for thought for you there.
Nate, I was saying on our buy low sell high show here, I was talking about Brat in that case,
Right.
as someone who I think, and he, of course, he got another couple goals tonight. So, geez, I think the sell high still open on Brat because I
Yep.
feel almost a bit more comfortable with Toffoli because of the underlying metrics, whereas Brat's sort of redlining in a lot of cases and he's doing stuff he doesn't normally do. But yeah, both players, I think it makes sense. I think if you're going to get rid of some of the top six though of these guys in Jersey, you want to make sure it's a slam dunk. Like I love the Kaprizov. Like if you can get Kaprizov by packaging Toffoli and someone else, you do that ASAP, right? I talked about on the buy low show like Jesper Bratt maybe trying for like Ovechkin. You know what I mean? Like, and this is
Yep.
before, he got a couple assists, but can you package them? Do you need to package them? I don't know, right? Like, I'm so on board with what you're saying there, though. When you got guys like this popping off, you just want to think about things like that. Like, can you get a slam dunk and get a first round player that will get back to form, right? Like
Yep.
Kaprizov is going to be fine, right? Toffoli for Kaprizov, that's a ridiculous trade, right? I love it.
Yep. Definitely. Another guy we got to talk about, got to fit him in here, Artemi Panarin. And, oftentimes we try to find guys who aren't just the absolute stars that were drafted in the first few rounds to talk about because we kind of expect some brilliance from Panarin, at least in stretches throughout the season. We expect him to be up around 90 plus points at the end of the season. But Panarin is doing something pretty unique this year that's really leading to this outburst that we're seeing right now. He's got 3 goals and 8 points in his last 5 games, averaging just over 18 minutes. So it's not coming from increased minutes, but he's 20th in shots per 60.
Yeah.
In his last 5 games. And on the season, he's 26th in shots per 60 and 12th in shot attempts per 60. And that's really drawing my attention here with Artemi Panarin because historically, Panarin has not been that guy at all, like whatsoever. He's never been a guy to attempt a huge number of shots. His highest shots per 60 in any season before this was back in 2019-20, where he had 8.8 shots per 60 in 8 games, obviously in the early going here, but he's got 12.5 shots per 60, which is just an incredible increase. Like you just do not see this from players this well established who are, this level of elite level playmaker, all those things. You just don't see it where a guy just decides to turn on the shooting faucet and goes nuts with it. So this is really interesting to me. I honestly don't know exactly what to make of it and like how sustainable it can be. It's a little bit mind-boggling, to be honest with you. He's doing it at even strength. It's not like he's just gotten a bunch of power play minutes and it's all coming on the power play. He is shooting more both on the power play and at even strength. So it seems like just a conscious decision on his part
Yeah.
to shoot the puck more often. And it's really led to some terrific individual stats, but also team stats. Like the team stats were really good for the Rangers with him on the ice last year, and they're even better this year. He's got a 70% Corsi for percentage at all strengths to start the season here, which is just unbelievable stuff. So he's absolutely tilting the ice in all facets of the game, and it seems like he's got some kind of renewed focus, and I'm pretty interested in it. I wonder, like, this might be like a buy high, honestly, on
Yeah.
Panarin. Like you might find somebody who's like, oh, I got to sell Panarin because he's hot and he's always been this like kind of not so great shooter. Like I'm wondering if we got to think that this could just be who Panarin is for this season. I I don't know. What do you think, Blake? Sell me on Panarin one way or the other. What should I be doing? Because I don't have any Panarin right now, and I'm wondering if he was the guy that I absolutely should have been slamming whenever he fell into the back end of the third.
It just didn't make sense. Like in a lot of the leagues we were in, like I mean, I think we had him for good projections. I think I had him for 96 points or something.
I had
Like
him
that's
for
amazing.
100.
Yeah. So I mean, we consciously elected not to choose Panarin here, but we have to take notice of this, right? Like, is it the haircut? Do you think like is it just he shaved his head
He's
and
more
all of a sudden,
streamlined.
yeah, he's definitely streamlined. He's getting down the ice quicker, right? He's like a bullet. I don't know. uh, but this is great to see, right? And I look at his line too, right? Who's he been playing with this season? It was supposed to be Trocheck and Blake Wheeler, right? That's kind of what Daily Faceoff had early on, but now he's playing most of his minutes with Philip Hedl and Alexis Lafreniere, right? So now he's the driving force between their mate. Like Trocheck was a big shooter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with Trocheck off the line, now we got Philip Hedl in there. They're setting up Panarin, right? And he's a dynamic player as well. He's an excellent skater. But yeah, this is unprecedented for him. Like the amount of shots, it's something we have to take notice of. 8 games is a reasonable sample size to be like, wow, it's not just he had a couple good games. It's like he's been maintaining this. Like, he's almost averaging 4 shots a game. He had a 7-shot game against Edmonton the other night. Like, what the hell? It's just not what I'm used to seeing, but I am excited. And I like the buy high analogy too. It's like sometimes you just got to get a guy on your team. And I think we've seen enough, like, every game that happens with just more data for us to analyze, right? But this could be the player he is now. And if it is, we could be looking at definitely a 100-point player with a hell of a lot more goals than we projected.
Right. Yeah, that's the part that's definitely exciting. Like in all your points leagues, you're getting more points for these goals. And so getting a 100-point player the way I projected him to be a 100-point player, but with 28 goals, that's a lot different than a 40-goal, 100-point player in a lot of points leagues. So that's the part that's really got me excited about Panarin here. We got to keep moving on. We got to talk about Noah Dobson, who is someone that I'm getting pretty interested in. It really just seems like the switch has been flipped this year, and Noah Dobson is now like the guy in Long Island there. 24.52 average time on ice for the season, and he's been scoring points with it. He's got 6 points in his last 5 games, including 2 goals. In these last 5 games, he's actually averaging over 26 minutes in those games, and the under the hood, the numbers aren't tremendous, like 45th in shots per 60, just 112th in individual scoring chances for per 60, so not really getting to the dangerous areas as much as he has in years past, but the on-ice numbers look good, 26th in Corsi 4 per 60 and 27th in scoring chances 4 per 60, even with those elevated minutes, so that part of it looks really nice. I'm thinking that Dobson, like, I did it for fun. I just went back and plugged in the additional minutes into my baseline projection for Dobson, and it came out to a 60-point player. So that's definitely a boost from where I thought he might end up as a baseline for this season. And, if he runs hot with a little bit of percentages, like this could be a 70-point defenseman. We saw it from a bunch of defensemen last year breaking out to that 70-plus point level, and this could be Dobson's year. I think the Islanders are playing around becoming a little bit more of an offensive team. They've definitely been a much more high event team in the early going, and they were this last year. Actually, a lot of people didn't realize just because they weren't great at converting. But they've definitely continued to be a little bit more high event in the early going, especially at even strength. They've just been kind of getting caved in and allowing a ton of chances against, but they're definitely not bad at creating chances for. They're around the middle of the pack, around that kind of Philadelphia range that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
So all this said, Blake, is Noah Dobson someone that we should actually be targeting and thinking that, again, might be a little bit of a buy high situation where he's playing really well, but somebody might be thinking this is the best Dobson's ever going to be. Should I get off him? And then you can kind of get in there and say, no, I think with these extra minutes that Dobson might actually be something for real this season.
I love it. Yeah. First off, the deployment. Yeah. This is the highest he's ever played. Like last season, he played 20 minutes, 23 seconds average time on ice. This season, 24.53. That's huge. 4 minutes. So, and one thing I loved about Dobson, like I actually projected him for 62 points. I was high on this guy because of the shot generation from the back end. Like I'm like you, those are the defensemen that I'm targeting. Right. And this guy was available around 100 or later in draft season. Right. And the Islanders had a terrible power play last season, right? So that's kind of, people weren't like, oh, I got to go out and get the QB on the Islanders power play. Like, no, but yeah, this has been a really nice start for Dobson, and 7 points in 7 games. Yeah. I think this is a player, like you said, a buy high. I think he does have a bit more in the tank. And I think the Islanders are better than what they've shown so far as well. So definitely a player I'm interested in. I have him for 15 goals too. That's a little spicy, but I think I love the way this guy's shooting from the back end. And, right now his shooting percentage is pretty high, but, it's not going to come down that much. I'm a big fan of the player.
Yep. Don't have much more to add there. I'm definitely interested in finding Dobson on more of my teams throughout this season.
Dobby.
Last last one here from the Hot Shots is Shea Theodore. So Theodore definitely benefited from Alex Pietrangelo being out for some time. Even with Pietrangelo back in, Theodore's continued to have some really big minutes nights. Went for 25-13 against LA there on Saturday, and he's been doing really good work with those extra minutes. 8 points in his last 5 games, including a couple of goals. 19th in shots per 60, 5th in shot attempts per 60, 19th in Corsi 4 per 60, 12th in
Sheesh.
scoring chances 4 per 60 amongst all defensemen. Really, really big numbers from Shea Theodore. We all know how well Vegas has played to start the season and how, as a team, they're elevating. It seems like Shea Theodore might be the guy doing the elevating, or at least a good chunk of it. So, do we have some additional love for Shea Theodore? Should we be kind of reassessing what we thought? At this point, they're definitely going to keep him on the top power play. In the last game, he skated. He skated like 4 times as much as Alex Pietrangelo on the power play. So it's a clear top player on the power play for them. They want Shea Theodore to be that guy on the power play. And that's just obviously going to lend itself to more offensive production, which is what we're after in fantasy. So again, with Shea Theodore, it's a player that I'm thinking I might have to adjust my priors on. Definitely, he's redlining right now. I don't expect him to continue this 91-point pace for the season. But again, similar to Dobson, I'm thinking this is a guy who I now should expect to be 60 plus, and definitely, I think in my mind, has 70 plus point upside.
Yeah, I can't even disagree with any of that. This is a guy that I was definitely not into this season. Like, no, I wasn't really into anyone on Vegas besides Jonathan Marchessault, who's, kind of not really doing what I want him to do right now. But yeah, I think, again, we've seen enough games with Shea Theodore where we can start to be like, yeah, this is kind of maybe the player he is for the season, right? 77% power play share. Yeah, like you said, I don't see that going away. He's already got 5 power play points. His time on ice is up. This is the highest he's ever played, 23 minutes, 45 seconds. And then, yeah, the actual production is amazing, right? 3 goals, 7 assists in 9 games. His shooting percentage is high. That's going to go down, but I definitely think that this is probably the player on Vegas that I'm interested in the most, like out of their whole team. I think, not that he's going to get the most points, nothing like that, but like, I think this, like, he's kind of in between, like he's unnoticeable. You know what I mean? You sort of have to notice him now that he has 10 points, but like, he's not a household name really. Like, hey, you could probably go out and trade for Shea Theodore and someone would be like, sure. Okay. Yeah. You flip him somebody with a bigger name, you might get a chance. Right. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the player as well. He's kind of done this without any fanfare too, right? Like when I didn't even really know Shea Theodore had 10 points until you showed me the show notes, and I was like, damn, yeah. I mean, that's great, right? And obviously Vegas just won the Stanley Cup, so they obviously know what they're doing. And this guy's the power play quarterback on power play 1, and I don't see that going anywhere. So it's a great player. If you drafted him, you got him probably at major value too. Again, around 100 or later in drafts, and this guy's flying right now.
Absolutely. All right, we've got to switch over and talk about some have-nots. Before we do that, I am going to plug the Discord. You got to check out the show description, click the link, join the Apples and Genos Discord server, talk some fantasy hockey with hundreds of other like-minded fantasy managers. You can do it any time of any day, and somebody will always be in there to give you their half-baked opinion on why you should drop Shea Theodore. So definitely get yourself in there and have these fun conversations with us. I'm just kidding. There's nobody in the Apples and Genos Discord server who would ever drop Shea Theodore. But over on the Apples and Genos website, you can also check out the daily summaries that 18 Skaters Mark Barber is posting. Terrific stuff, really valuable information. Just summarizes the previous day's games and points out the biggest performances in a concise and easy to understand number of charts and graphs. So love that, and definitely worth the click every morning. Also, if you need some help with your team, if you want a team review, or if you just need someone who you can ask all your fantasy questions to on an ad hoc basis, then you should check out the Apples and Genos Patreon. And for $5 a month, you can get the answers to all of your questions. And for $10 a month, you can get a team review every month. And I'll go in depth on your team and evaluate what you should be doing, things you should be changing, what you should be prioritizing for that specific team. And while you're here, if you could like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, we are trying to pitch a full fledged war between the Apple Podcast listeners and the Spotify listeners to see who can come up with the most reviews and ratings. So if you can be a part of that ongoing saga, that would be greatly appreciated by everyone here at Apples and Genos. All right, Blake, we've got to do it. We've got to get into the have nots. And the first one here, well, I actually think I want to kind of tie these two together. I want to tie together Barrett Hayton and Dawson Mercer. Both of these guys have exactly 0 points on the season. Really impressively terrible stuff from both of these players. Now, I'm a little bit more excited about one of these guys, but talk to me about your initial impressions of both through the season. I was seeing today from the game today that Dawson Mercer actually skated 21 minutes. Obviously, Nico Hischier out of the lineup, so a little bit more ice time available there, but that's a big number. Do we have some love for Mercer this week? Obviously, there's a late week schedule that's nice for the Devils. If Mercer is getting dropped, someone's like, man, this guy's still not performing. He's not going to play for 3 days to open the week. I'm dropping Dawson Mercer. Are you going to be jumping on Dawson Mercer for the late week?
I'm going to be jumping his bones. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe not. But I actually am a fan of both the players for this week. But yeah, I think I know who you're like. And to me, Dawson Mercer is he hasn't been consistent this season with his ice time, right? He's been a casualty of these new additions in Jersey there. And yeah, he played 21 minutes today, but he had a 55% shorthanded share. Right. So he's out there killing penalties, right? He only had a 27% power play share. So he's still dinking around on power play 2 there with Dougie Hamilton. What's happening in there in Jersey? I don't know. Lindy Ruff, explain yourself, but that's fine. So, he had a good game, but he's a good defensive player. He's just very sound. He's a really good young player. He's played 2 full seasons of 82 games, right? I think the coach has some trust in him. So, but he's taken on a different role this season, I think, and it's going to be a defensive role, right? So, and we don't know when Nico Hischier's coming back. So, but the fact that Nico Hischier is out and this guy isn't really getting moved up, at least to that second line to center there, I don't really like that with Dawson Mercer. But again, they've got a great schedule towards the end of the week. I think this guy should be rostered for the week. But yeah, out of these two, I'm taking Barrett Hayton all day and twice on Sundays because the deployment's already there. Right. He's already top line, top power play. Yeah, he's not converting, but he's shooting more. He's shooting a hell of a lot more than he has historically. His line is converting. He's not converting. So it's inexplicable, really. 0 points in 7 games. That's not what you want to see, obviously. But I mean, under the hood, Barrett Hayton is kind of showing out. And I think this is, again, going to be a really big week for Barrett Hayton with the 4 games. I think he's going to come out of this week with a bunch of points. I wouldn't be surprised to see him with 4 points this week. So, yeah, I mean, they are similar players, but I'm always going to take Barrett Hayton out of these two, just with their current sort of deployment and situations on their team. I don't know. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said there. Dawson Mercer, it's really hard to figure out. Like, he's never been a guy who had terrific under the hood numbers, but it seemed like he was on an upward trajectory as a young player in the league. And then for whatever reason, like, the deployment hasn't been great, but he's still getting 1646 average time on ice. That's actually higher than last year through these 8 games, but it's really like everything has just absolutely tanked. It seems like the player himself is just performing very, very terribly. Perhaps there's, underlying injury or something else going on that we just don't know about, and that's affecting his play. That's definitely possible. I'm searching for any kind of explanation because he, as a player, is just performing extremely poorly. That being said, I would still look at him for an end of week stream just because it's a really tough week to get an end of the week stream. And so if he is dropped, I would be interested in trying it out one more time just because we've seen him go off, quite frankly. Like, he's had stretches where he was like the hottest thing in fantasy last year. So, yeah, maybe these 3 days off is what he needs to get his head screwed on straight again, and he'll be awesome from here on out. Certainly hope that for the player. I would take one more swing at it this week, but yeah, he's fast running out of time, and the ceiling is definitely not there. He's definitely much more in a streamer category than many were thinking before the season, including myself.
Yeah.
But Barrett Hayton, for sure, is the player that I'd much rather have here. He's taken another step with the underlying metrics, especially the individual scoring chances for per 60 on the season, 11.1 individual scoring chances for per 60, well above that 10.0 mark that we like to talk about as kind of a benchmark that we like to see. Yeah, on the season, 54th in the league in individual scoring chances for per 60 in the last 5 games, 35th, and skating 20 minutes a night. You can't really ask for much more than that. I got a spicy take for you here, Blake. I would
Ooh.
trade Ryan Hartman for Barrett Hayton today.
Ooh, I like that. I think Hayton has a clearer path to minutes and production. So I'm doing that too, right? Although, yeah, like if you look at it just in a bubble, like Ryan Hartman, whatever his production is, 9 points in 8 games, and this guy's got 0 and 7. But I think that's a really reasonable trade, and it's a little spicy. But yeah, I'm with you. I can't even disagree with you, buddy. Get Ryan Hartman the hell off my team, at least for this week, and then pick him up again.
All right, let's keep rolling and talk about Boone Jenner. Unfortunately, he comes up in this list. Just 1 goal in his last 5 games. Still skating a ton of minutes, over 22 and a half minutes per game. The underlying stats actually look terrific with Boone Jenner. 27th in shots per 60, 20th in individual scoring chances for per 60. On ice numbers look great. 22nd in Corsi for per 60, 18th in scoring chances for per 60. But the puck is definitely not going in for the Blue Jackets as a team right now. What are your thoughts? Obviously, we all know of your love for Boone Jenner, but if you can try to set that aside for just a moment and be a little bit objective about the situation, what do you think about the cold streak here from Jenner?
You know what's funny is whenever anyone asks me about Boone Jenner, I always try and think of a reason to like slam Boone Jenner, be like, no, just drop him, right? Just to maintain my credibility, everyone. But yeah, I'm not worried at all. I mean, yeah, Columbus has a team. I'm a little bit concerned there, but not about this player, right? Like, look what he's doing game to game. This is ridiculous. Like, if you look at Mark Barber's sheets that he puts out every day, I mean, this guy is at the top of the list in a lot of categories. You know what I mean? Shots on goal, hits, blocks, there, everything. This guy's doing it all. He's just not scoring, right? But I projected Boone Jenner for 59 points. That's still reasonable. He's still in the wheelhouse of getting 59 points. Like, we just have to manage our expectations. I think one of the issues with Boone Jenner, the guy comes out and gets a hat trick, and everyone's like, okay, it's the season of Boone. And you're like, well, actually, no, that's not really what he does. But, it was a nice game for him. But that's not what he does. You know what is a bit disappointing, though, with Boone Jenner is like he doesn't score on the power play. Oh, man. Like his career high is 14, and that was in his 3rd year in the league. He had 11 last year. Buddy, come on, Boone. Help me out. Just stand in front of the net. Use those skills, all right? Just intimidate the goalie with your insane jawline. Like, just, I still think Boone Jenner will have a career high in power play points this season. So, and that's not even, he needs 15 to get that. And I think that's totally reasonable, but I'm not worried about the player at all. Just manage your expectations, right? He's got 5 points in 8 games. Like, good. We're good to go. If you have him in a category league, this guy's a slam dunk. I mean, in a points league, he's on the bubble, right? If you need to drop Boone Jenner, you could drop Boone Jenner. I mean, pretty comfortably, right? Probably pick him back up. He'll be back down to 37% before you know it. All right. And then I'll be singing this man's praises again.
Yeah, I'm still all in on Boone Jenner. Really interested in the team context here because Jenner's not really a guy who's going to be the show driver, right? Like that's what they got Goudreau for. That's what they hope Line is when he comes back. That's not who Boone Jenner is to any line that he's ever been on, really. But he is one of these guys who can absolutely convert on the chances that are given to him and provide a ton of shots and individual chances when given the opportunity. Columbus, like for all their woes, Columbus looks pretty solid under the hood at even strength. They're 16th in Corsi 4 per 60, or sorry, scoring chances 4 per 60, and they're actually at 8th in Corsi 4 per 60 at even strength. So they're actually
Love
putting
that.
a fair number of pucks on net. The Corsi 4 percentage is not great. They're still allowing a lot of chances against, so they're playing some pretty high event hockey. But overall, like, I think that the situation is as good or better than it's ever been for anybody in Columbus, and I think Boone Jenner should be a beneficiary of that this season. And I'm not worried at all about this little bit of a cold stretch. I'm continuing to hold and play him wherever I have him. Another guy who has been cold with a similar stat line is Trevor Zegras, just 1 goal in his last 5 games. That was his first goal of the season. Through 8 games, he's only got 2 points. He did receive a benching in 1 game last week, and apparently that was well received. He understood, and he said it motivated him, and said all the right things coming out of that, which is good to see, that it's not going to be some sort of ongoing saga between him and the coach.
Right.
Underlying numbers here are actually pretty good. So he's averaging just under 19 minutes a night in these last 5 games, 29th in shots per 60, 38th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. On ice numbers looking pretty good too, 27th in Corsi, 4 per 60, and 39th in scoring chances, 4 per 60. What's your thoughts on Zegras? Is this potentially a guy that you might talk about in your buy low segment later this week? What do you think?
Yeah, I actually did talk about him. He was one of my guys. Him and Troy Terry were buy lows. I mean, Terry got a goal and an assist, so but he's still kind of a buy low. Like if you just look at his numbers, but yeah, Zegras is a buy low to me, no question. I'm very interested in this player. The only thing that holds me back from really liking Zegras, I think he's center only on Yahoo, but that should change, right? Because he's over on the left side. But yeah, to me, like that he's gonna be fine. I love these numbers that you mentioned, all the metrics, like exactly what we want to see. This is a guy who sort of held out a little bit, right? And he probably wasn't fully there for training camp, and so it's a expected slow start. Plus, you have a new coach, right? So you got to come in and sort of prove yourself a little bit. Plus the benching, right? So you know what I really want to see though? This guy, Leo Carlson, we need him in the lineup. I think Zegras needs him in the lineup a little bit, right? And I've mentioned this before. I think we talked about it, but Troy Terry, like basically he was a little bit pissed off and frustrated at the way they're managing Carlson's minutes because they're so much better. Their line is so much better when Carlson is there, right? And I think Zegras probably feels that too. So, but yeah, I love the fact that Zegras is shooting. That's amazing, right? He's shooting 4.2% right now. You think he's going to be there at the end of the season? I don't think so. All right. That's going to go up. This is an 11.3 career shooter. You know, in the last seasons, we're both in the, 12.5 and 12.7. So he'll be fine. The power play points are going to start coming. But yeah, they're a team trying to find their identity there in Anaheim. But yeah, I love the player and I love like him and Terry to me. And now Mintyukov are guys I'm definitely interested in because of Anaheim's amazing schedule moving forward.
For sure. Let's keep rolling. We have to talk about Jonathan Huberdeau. So
Oh, God.
Huberdeau, I mean, it continues to be an ongoing thing. The stats I pulled are from before the game today. 1 goal in his last 5 games. He did get an assist today, but again, I have him averaging 16 and a half in the game today. He got 16:01 and 4 minutes and 30 seconds of that was power play time. So definitely not being prioritized at even strength. They did change the lines around a little bit. I'm going to double check and confirm that I'm right on this, but it looked like, yeah, he's with Nazem Kadri again, which is a duo that you and I talked about as having some chemistry from last year. And I think both of us thought that that might be reprised this season once again. And I hopefully that can kind of get both of those guys untracked. I believe it was actually the Kadri goal. Yeah, it was a Kadri goal on the power play that Huberdeau got an assist on. So
Yep.
that's how it went today. And then Matt Coronado is playing on the other side, and Coronado's actually under the hood been pretty much the best flame on a per 60 basis over this last little bit. I'm a little bit of two minds here because the Flames, again, we talked about this in the offseason, how under the hood they actually look pretty good. Again, they look pretty good under the hood. They are fifth in the entire league at even strength in Corsi 4 per 60. And, like
Yeah,
how
I don't
far down can you really push a team? Like obviously the end of game results have not been there. They've been losing games, but partially I think that's due to the fact that they're funneling a lot of shot attempts on net, but not getting to as good of high danger areas. They're 19th in the league in scoring chances for per 60 at even strength. So definitely not being the most dangerous with their shot attempts that some of these other teams are. All that said, like I do think there are better days ahead for this team. I have to believe that the power of regression will work in their favor at some point, even though it seems like it's just carried on directly from last year once again. Your thoughts, Blake? What can we expect from Huberto? And is it the team context? Is it the time on ice? What do you think is the factor here that could change and really bring him back up to where we hoped he could get to?
I honestly don't know. Like, this is a head scratcher for sure. Like, there. First off, I hate the deployment. I hate Huberto's deployment, and I don't understand. This is kind of like when I hear you talk about the team stats for Calgary, it's kind of like a gap in analysis, isn't it? In our analysis, like, okay, well, the numbers are showing this, like, but they're not converting, right? And I find that sometimes when I'm analyzing players is like, yeah, they're just not converting. And why? Why are they not converting, right? And in this particular situation, it's really hard to pinpoint what it is. Like, they're second worst in the entire league in shooting percentage at all strengths. Second worst. San Jose's the worst. Next worst, Calgary. Okay,
Yep.
I don't get it. Right? They have talented players. They have a very good defensive core, and they have who should be a decent goalie. Markstrom does look a little better this season, even though his numbers are, God, he's just crushing me. I have him in a lot of spots. But yeah, as far as Huberto goes, like, last year, I really was convinced he was a buy low. I'm like, okay, this is a buy low. It's going to get better. Obviously, he had a terrible season, 55 points. I'm not so sure this season that, based on what I've seen so far, that Huberto is going to bounce back. This might be the player he is now. 5 points in 9 games, 16 minutes on ice, and the power play stinks. Like, what do you do with that? Like, he's putting up donuts in a lot of categories from game to game, right? And I don't get it. I don't know. Like, have you heard anything at all? Like, what might go on in the dressing room there, or any instance that would explain anything that's going on with Huberto?
No, I haven't. Yeah, it's a really puzzling case for sure, and it's hard. I think we're kind of, in some senses, double counting because of the season that was last year
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how it's kind of just seemed to keep going into this season, the exact same problems from last season,
yes,
statistically anyway. And so I'm trying to, remain objective and believe in the power of the math that eventually things will regress to normal a little bit. The most concerning thing to me, honestly, is that the time on ice keeps going down and down
yeah,
and down. It seems like the coach is losing some belief in some players and really probably honestly just searching for something that'll work, somebody to give the team a spark, things like that. So
right.
that's honestly the most concerning thing for me at this point. I know some people have dropped Huberto or considering dropping Huberto. Like, it's hard to blame you in some spots, depending obviously on your setup and how deep your league is and all those things. But yeah, definitely one of the more puzzling players, and not a player that I feel like I have a great answer or a great direction to offer on at this point.
Do you have him anywhere, Nate?
I don't know. Yeah, again, just the type of player that he is, not a big shooter. It's just
Right.
often not the type of player that I'm targeting in a lot of spots. So I rarely end up with this type of player on my teams, unless they're just criminally undervalued. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the kind of player. So I haven't had to make that decision personally, and maybe it would be more personal to me if I was making that decision. But yeah, that's where I'm at with him for now. Okay, we want to talk about a couple of defensemen here. I'm going to do it rather briefly. I want to make sure we leave some time for our other segments here, but Seth Jones and Brent Burns are two defensemen that I really think require some attention, some of our attention as fantasy managers. Seth Jones, in my mind, is a little bit of an open and shut case. I actually think Seth Jones is kind of underrated. It seemed like there's this big thing from the analytics community that, oh, Seth Jones is so overrated. I can't believe he got that massive contract. And I think the pendulum has kind of swung to the other side, where now that he's on Chicago and the counting stats aren't there as much, that he's actually kind of underrated. He's got
Mhm.
just 1 assist in his last 5 games, still averaging over 26 minutes a night. 3 assists in 8 games on the season, but the underlying stats are still solid, especially considering the team context here. Like, 59th in Corsi 4/60 and 78th in scoring chances 4/60. Honestly, like I'll take that on Chicago with how terrible they are offensively.
Right.
And individually, he's doing even better, 58th in shots per 60 and 45th in individual scoring chances 4/60. So I actually think that Seth Jones is a little bit of a buy low for me right now, and I would be interested in acquiring his services. And the other one I alluded to, Brent Burns, just 1 goal in his last 5 games, 4 points in 9 games on the season. In his last 5 games here, 7th in shots per 60, 9th in individual scoring chances 4/60, 5th in Corsi 4/60, 19th in scoring chances 4/60. All of that would lead you to say that this is absolutely a buy low player, except for the fact that he continues to get bumped down to the second power play in favor of Tony DeAngelo, and his overall minutes have taken a dip as well. He's below 21 minutes average time on ice through this stretch. So compare and contrast a little bit for me here, Blake. If you had to pick between one of these two for the rest of the season, who would you go with and why?
I think I'd go with Brent Burns. I mean, it's not like a slam dunk or anything. Like I agree with what you said on Seth Jones. I just don't trust the Blackhawks. Like if you look at their lineup up and down, like without Bedard, like that's the San Jose Sharks basically. You know what I mean? Like it's not good. So I mean, they've had some nice performances, like Corey Perry so far, really nice. I like Ryan Donato as well there. Taylor Radish will probably do something. I like Kevin Korchinski too, actually, but I mean, I just don't trust that team at all. And I trust the Carolina Hurricanes. One thing with the Carolina Hurricanes, they've had terrible goaltending to start the season, like really bad. So it's losing them games, and they've had some injuries here and there. So I just, Brent Burns is 38 years old, but he's still a massive shot production from the back end, even on power play too. You just have to manage expectations. I said this a lot last year, but these are defensemen, right? What are we expecting from these guys? If they get 50 to 60 points, like it's going to be fine. You know what I mean? I think Brent Burns could get 50 to 60 points, with probably like 12, 15 goals, something like that. Like that's a nice little season for Brent Burns at this point in his career. He only got 61 last year, 61 points. So, I mean, what are we expecting? I think if we get that again, we're loving it. And I think he's on a 36-point pace right now. So that's no good. But I do think that Carolina is going to be a lot better. The metrics show that, like their Corsi for highest in the league, their Corsi against best in the league, right? Like, they just got to start converting, right? And they got to get some goaltending, right? And if they can shore up that goaltending position, like with Freddie Anderson back in there, having some decent games, I think, the team confidence will get a little bit better and they'll start, releasing the stick a little bit, right? But yeah, I think I'm taking Burns there. Who are you taking?
I'll kind of cop out and say it would change my answer if it was like a Bangers Cats versus a points league. I would go Seth Jones in a Bangers Cats, and I'd probably go back to Brent Burns in a points league. But yeah, definitely two players that are much closer today than I thought they were at the start of the season. So definitely an interesting point there. That's going to do it for the have-nots. If we didn't talk about a player that you do want to hear about, then you should look for the live stream of Puzzling Players I do every single Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You should get into the Apples and Geos Discord server. I put out a call every week and ask for people's most puzzling players and the players that get the most votes I talk about during that live stream. And I also take some live questions, so come hang out. It'll be a good time. We can chat together about Seth Jones versus Brent Burns or whatever you want to talk about. We can have that chat Mondays, 8 p.m. EST, right here on this YouTube channel. All right, Blake, we've got to do Move of the Week. It's a little bit of a different week than the last few weeks, but why don't you hit us with the move you made this week that you were the most proud of?
Yeah. I mean, I wish this was more exciting and better, right? But as if you've listened to our waiver shows, like these last couple of weeks have just been so easy, right? It's the light nights are insanely light and the heavy ones are very heavy. So you can't really do a ton with streaming. So my favorite move that I made this week was in my Cupful team. I picked up, just because Washington had a great schedule, I picked up Yevgeny Kuznetsov at the start of the week and I kept him throughout. I ended up winning my matchup. This guy popped off for 4 points in 4 games. So that was great. I ended up winning by just about that amount of points. So, but to me, Kuznetsov was a really interesting pickup, and he's still an interesting player because the deployment this man is getting is insane. I mean, he's played 2 straight games of 25 minutes. He's had like a 21-minute game, 22, 23, all that stuff. So this is actually a player that I'm now debating whether or not I want to drop or not, right? Because Washington has a stinky schedule next week with only 2 games. So I can't hold this man, can I, Nate? God, he's getting insane deployment. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on Kuznetsov?
Yeah, it's a tough spot, especially because Washington is playing on the heavy nights as well. So, like, are you actually going to put him in your lineup when it comes time on Thursday and Saturday this week? I don't know. That would kind of probably sway it for me. If he is actually going to make your lineup, then I might keep him. But if he's not, like, I'm not, very, very few players across the league that I'm interested in rostering for a full week without actually cracking my lineup. So
Yep.
that would be how I would make that decision. My move of the week was I had this move to make today, actually. I had an extra ad for today, just evaluating where I was at in the league and how the matchup was going. It was going to take a really big performance from my players. I actually had like some stacks within my lineup, so it was reasonable that if my opponent's stacks, he had, I believe, Kaprizov and Zuccarello, and I had like Makar and Lehkonen and some other pieces that were kind of correlated. So it was reasonable to think that, if things broke my way, that I could have a big day and take over. But I was behind by several points. Like I was definitely a pretty solid underdog. And so I was looking at, if a goalie had a big day, then that would be the most points that I could probably get. So that's like your Hail Mary shot. Hopefully, some of you out there took that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen shot today and are reaping the rewards. I contemplated it, but ultimately decided to go with Eric Halla. And Eric Halla actually had a nice game, had a
Yep.
goal, and got lots of deployment, which I expected with Heischer out and all those things. But Heischer, or Halla rather, actually gets me a nice stream for this end of the week here that we talked about in the waiver wire show. So he's going to crack my lineup for the Friday, Sunday, and he's going to stick on my roster this week. I have a lot of streaming spots on this roster, and so getting that move done early kind of takes away from what I need to do with the new ads for the upcoming week. And so I decided that in the grand scheme of things, it was going to take a pretty big day from the rest of my lineup to get me over the hump anyway, and I decided to not take that shot. You can say that I was wrong just because of the result, but I think the process was sound in this case to take Halla, still get a player who actually did perform and did give me something for the matchup today. If the rest of my team had performed really well and things had broken my way, it would have definitely aided me and potentially gotten me the W. It didn't fall that way today, but getting something for today while also providing yourself something for the upcoming week is definitely a strategy you should be thinking about whenever you're making these Sunday plays, last ditch efforts on the Sunday. You just have to be honest with yourself about where you are in the matchup, what your likelihood of actually winning the matchup is, and kind of couch the two scenarios here. Will I be really angry if I had streamed Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and he had gotten lit up by Colorado, which was probably most people's base expectation, then I would have been pretty angry with myself that I had taken a long shot to really win my week. And he wouldn't have won my week, as it turns out, because my team didn't do well and the other guy's team did pretty well overall. So all that to say, you kind of just have to evaluate where you are on these Sunday ads and think kind of critically to yourself about, can I get something for today that actually does help me beyond today if you're in a situation like I was in today. All right, last thing on the docket is we have to recap the head-to-head streamer deathmatch.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to just kind of skip this segment. Rumors are that Blake is 2-0 after the way that this has run out in the early going here. He had Casey Middlestat for this past week, and I had Tomas Hertl. Hertl somehow skated 20 minutes a night and ran into 0 points on the week. The San Jose Sharks are apparently just that bad. Casey Middlestat had a nice week for himself when all is said and done. A goal, 2 assists, 6 shots on goal, 3 blocks, 15 couple points to Thomas Hertl's 6.5. So congratulations, Blake. Your award is in the mail for your early season lead here in this segment. Do you have anything you would like to say for yourself?
It's all about the journey, my man. All right. This is just a bump in the road for you. All right. This is a long season, buddy. You just keep your chin up, okay?
Oh, that's so much worse. I was
That's
hoping that you're going to
great. No,
pump
no,
your own
no,
tires.
no, buddy. No, I'm here for you. All right. Oh my God.
Just a gut punch right at the end of the episode here. Unfortunately, that's all we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value. Hoped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band They're There for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. And that's it, folks. Much love.